Welcome to a new episode of Decoding MENA, your go-to program for decoding the complex dynamics of the Middle East and North Africa. Today, we are joined by our distinguished guest, Dr. Yasser, an expert in Middle Eastern affairs and strategic analysis. Dr. Yasser, today's topic is as sensitive as it is explosive: Israel's heavy losses in the 12-day war with Iran. But before we get into the numbers and details, let me ask the question on everyone's mind. How can a country widely regarded as having the most powerful military in the region suffer such severe losses in just 12 days?
Thank you, and greetings to all our listeners. That's a central and insightful question. It touches on a common misconception about the nature of Israeli military power. Let me begin with a story from Jewish folklore that perfectly illustrates the point. There was once a rabbi living in a village near a large city ruled by a harsh governor. When word of the rabbi's wisdom reached the governor, he was furious and sought to humiliate him. He ordered the rabbi to teach his dog to speak within 5 years, or be executed. The rabbi accepted. When his wife asked how he would do the impossible, he calmly replied, "In 5 years, the governor may die, the dog may die, or perhaps I'll succeed."
What a story! But how does this tie into Israel and the 12-day war?
The connection is clear. This story reveals one of the greatest weaknesses of the Israeli regime: the absence of a clear long-term strategy. Israel entered this war with Iran pursuing highly ambitious objectives, which Netanyahu and his far-right government openly declared: destroy Iran's nuclear program, dismantle its ballistic missile systems, cripple critical military capabilities, assassinate key military leaders, and topple the Iranian regime.
Huge goals indeed. But the central question remains: did Israel actually achieve any of those objectives, and at what cost?
Exactly, that's the heart of the matter. Let's begin with the costs, because they were truly staggering. The Wall Street Journal published a significant report titled, "Israel's War on Iran is Costing It Hundreds of Millions per Day." And the subheadline was even more telling: "The high price will force Israel to end the war quickly." And that's exactly what happened.
Staggering numbers indeed. Tell us more, Dr. Yasser.
Certainly. The costs can be divided into 3 categories: military, economic, and strategic. Let's start with military spending. In the first week alone, Israel spent roughly $5 billion. Reserve Brigadier General Raim Amanak, former financial advisor to the IDF Chief of Staff, stated that the war was costing Israel $725 million a day in direct military expenses.
$725 million a day? That's astronomical. What's behind such massive expenses?
The main culprit is Israel's air defense system. Just operating the David Sling system at minimum capacity, meaning turning it on and firing just 2 interceptors, costs $700,000. Now consider the Arrow missile system, which intercepts long-range ballistic missiles. One Arrow 3 missile costs $4 million. One Arrow 2 costs $3 million. When Iran launched over 400 missiles, just do the math.
And what about the actual damage? Did any Iranian missiles breach Israel's defenses?
That's the critical question. Despite the billions spent on defense, we all saw the results. Over 30 ballistic missiles, according to the IDF itself, penetrated Israeli airspace and caused serious damage. Structural engineer Eyal Shalev, who was appointed by the Israeli government to assess the damage, stated that hundreds of buildings were either completely destroyed or severely damaged, costing hundreds of millions to rebuild. Even the Weizmann Institute, one of Israel's leading research centers, was completely destroyed.
And what about Ben Gurion Airport and other critical facilities?
Ben Gurion Airport, the country's main airport, was shut down for 10 consecutive days. That alone is an economic disaster. The Bazan oil refinery, the largest in the occupied territories, was hit directly, and its closure is costing around $3 million per day. And more importantly, over 36,000 settlers were affected and now require government compensation, not to mention hundreds of damaged companies.
These numbers are terrifying, but what about the broader economic picture?
It's catastrophic. Israel is essentially transforming into a fully militarized state. In 2024, military spending rose by 65% compared to 2023, reaching $46.5 billion. This led to major cuts in health, education, and social services. Economist Yaakov Sheinin, one of Israel's top financial experts, warned that if the conflict were to continue, it could wipe out 1/5 of Israel's GDP and plunge the state into a full-blown financial crisis.
Let's now address the core of the matter. How many of the 5 stated goals did Israel actually achieve?
Here's the shocking truth. A classified report by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, leaked to the New York Times, revealed that Israeli and U.S. strikes delayed Iran's nuclear program by less than 6 months. The report said that Iran had already moved most of its enriched uranium to hidden backup enrichment sites, and that the strikes merely sealed the entrances of 2 facilities but did not destroy their underground cores.
And what about Iran's missile program?
That's even clearer. Israel's final strike was met with a massive wave of Iranian missiles, causing heavy destruction, particularly in Beersheba. To dismantle a missile program of this scale, you'd need a months-long full-scale air and ground war, which didn't happen. Iranian researcher Hadias Meharidzadeh from the Crown Center for Middle East Studies noted that such a US-led war would cost $3 trillion and ignite the entire Middle East.
So, what was the only achievement Israel could claim?
The only partial success was the assassination of several top Iranian military commanders during the initial strike. But even that came at a high price. Israel exposed its intelligence networks, burned offensive assets, and revealed vulnerabilities in its cyber and defense systems. All of this gave Iran an opportunity to counter with precision.
That's a powerful analysis, but before we wrap up, your final strategic assessment.
To put it simply, when you enter a war with 5 lofty goals and only partially achieve one, you haven't won. Your defeat may outweigh your achievement. Yes, Iran was damaged, but it emerged stronger, more unified, and perhaps closer to acquiring a nuclear weapon. Israel, on the other hand, revealed itself not as a strategic mastermind, but as a regime governed by short-sighted, forward escape tactics, a pattern that Netanyahu has pursued since the Al-Aqsa flood.
Powerful words, Dr. Yasser. So, to close this episode, what's your outlook for the future?
The real question is, will Israel strike Iran again anytime soon? Personally, I think the astronomical costs and limited gains will make Tel Aviv think twice. But with Netanyahu and his extremist coalition, nothing is off the table.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yasser, for this in-depth and sobering analysis. Dear listeners, this has been a special episode of Decoding MENA, exploring the true costs of Israel's 12-day war with Iran. Question of the day: do you think Israel will dare to launch another attack on Iran soon? Why or why not? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the Middle East's hidden stories. Share this episode with your friends and loved ones because knowledge grows when it's shared. We'll see you in the next episode with even deeper insights and more critical questions. Until then, stay with us on Decoding MENA.